The Jeff Hafley era is officially underway at Boston College. We got Dan Rubin on the line from Eagles Unlimited to help us talk about the Steve Addazio era into Jeff Hafley. Dan just was there attending the news conference introducing Hafley as the head coach, and then we'll talk about Boston College's bowl game coming up. Dan, how you doing today?
Hey, it's been an exciting day up here on the Heights, and I'm excited to just see everything unfolding over the last couple of weeks. It's been a whirlwind, and it's been very interesting, very intriguing, very exciting.
Before we get to what you witnessed today and what you took from Hafley's comments, Steve Addazio, it took me by a slight surprise that he was dismissed. I then heard some of the backlash coming from former players in regards to his approach there at BC. He consistently won 7 games. He didn't bring the program in any way, shape, or form back to the Tom Coughlin days. But at the same time, again, understanding the challenges there, he won 7 games consistently, aside from the 6-6. Of course, this year, the 3-9 in his second season. Just your thoughts about how Addazio handled the program, his success, what the expectations were, what they should be, and just your overview of his successes and failures.
So I know he was at times the last couple of years to the fan base. He wasn't the flashiest coach. I guess that's the best way of saying it. When it came to his football approach, when it came to the way he wanted to run a football program, he wanted to pound the ball. He wanted to pound the rock, and to both his success and to his detriment at times over the last few years, that was his primary source, and he was going to live and die by it, and he lived by it on the ground, and he died by it on the ground when it came to wins and losses by his game plan. They achieved balance at times, but primarily will always be remembered as a run-first team. When it came to success, I think you have to go back in time, and there's always going to be a little bit of recency bias. Back to 2011 and 2012, when the team was quite honestly not good. 2 bowl ineligible years, 2-10 in 2012, and the team that in 2013 immediately jumped back into a bowl game and into bowl contention. So he was the type of coach that you needed at that time, and he rebuilt the recruiting pipeline. He rebuilt the concept of Boston College pride in 2013 and 2014. 2015 was always going to be a bottoming out process. I think looking back, I think that was something that we all, in retrospect, could have seen coming, just based, again, on the fact that the recruiting pipeline was left pretty bare for him, and that he needed to come in and develop guys and throw them trial by fire after patching it for 2 years. When you get to the end of the Addazio era, it turned into a situation where there was progress that was made, but I don't think for the administration it was enough progress. You go back to last year in 2018, they were 7-2, hosting Clemson. College game day was on campus. And there was progress, and it was there. And you looked at the fact that they were 7-2 and 17th in the country, ranked twice during the season, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. The team was good, and it was a good year. Unfortunately, all the circumstances that came together. When you look at the way the season ended, they still finished 7-5 with the bowl game that was canceled, but there was progress to that point. I think when you look at this year in 2019, and you look at the way that the progress just seemed to not get over the hump. When it boiled down to pure wins and losses, he was a good coach. But when you're looking at the ACC and you want to get to the next level, administration decided to make a change. They had to make the decision, and they had to honestly stand by the decision that when they made that commitment, that they were going to go out and do something that was going to potentially get BC over that hump that Steve Addazio could not get over for a number of different reasons. So they bring in Jeff Hafley. He gets unveiled today, and the results remain to be seen. I mean, we don't have anything to base it on going into next year, but the excitement is there. It's juiced up the fan base. It's juiced up everything about Boston College, and really it feels like BC is starting to get over the hump. But without Steve Addazio, they're not even approaching the 7-win hump to begin with back in 2012. So I think you're going to be able to punch holes, find positives, find negatives on both sides. Of the way that he coached, of his approach to the game, of counterculture football, the way that I liked it. I'll never deny that I support what he was trying to do, but in the end, he just couldn't get them over the 6 and 7 win hump. And BC decided to go in a different direction.
It's definitely a fair analysis. It's the same one that I have, but you obviously are right there covering the team, the personnel, the situation, so you can give it such better perspective and detail. But certainly this is a guy that, yeah, brought them out of the abyss, stabilized it, developed a culture. Whether you agreed with it or not, it was successful to a degree. He was certainly consistent. He was certainly determined and built a foundation. And then we hear this from time to time when coaches aren't successful, that they didn't have an identity. Well, he certainly had an identity, and his teams had an identity, but probably not the guy to then break through the 7-5 barrier to take them. And I don't know if anybody's going to take them to the next level year after year after year, but that coach that has the ability to maintain 7-5 and then cycle that into a trip to challenge. And let's take Clemson out of the equation. That can't last forever, but challenge for conference championships every so often and get to the next level periodically. And he just didn't seem to be that guy.
No, he wasn't, Mark. And the one thing I will throw in there too is that I think when it comes to coaches, you can do a lot worse in that situation. I think moving forward, and I will forever say this, it is a quick to rush to judgment to look at the last 2 years and say that he coached them out of a potential 8 or 9 wins when you saw Wake Forest getting there and NC State getting there. I will say this, where he's now the head coach at Colorado State. If this is a program that is looking to rebuild at Colorado State, he's certainly the guy that I think can have success out there.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love each and every day with the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry. Analysis from myself, of course, on a daily basis as well. Boston College has a new head coach. He comes via Ohio State, Jeff Hafley, working on game planning for the college football playoffs, but now he takes on his own program. Dan was just at the news conference, and so this will be fascinating for us to find out your take from the Hafley comments.
I was ready to run through a brick wall. He was awesome. If you're looking for a fresh outlook and you're looking for fresh energy, the minute he walked in the room, hearing the way Martin Jarman, the athletic director, talked about him, and then seeing the way he got up and spoke intensely and spoke about what he wanted to do, asking everybody at BC to lock arms and get in with this program. It didn't feel like he was trying to sell anybody on anything. I don't think that Boston College, and Martin Jarman actually said this to me, I don't feel that Boston College has to sell itself. It sells itself just by being what BC is, and it's very desirable. And it was, when the coaching search opened, a desirable spot for a number of candidates. Jeff Hafley rose to the top of the list almost immediately. He was Exhibit A. He was Candidate A, and then he stood at the press conference and talked about why Boston College was his choice as well. Local-ish guy, when you talk about from the Northeast, New Jersey, a key recruiting pipeline for Boston College. He's from that area. Started out in the Northeast, has experience. He coached at Rutgers with Greg Schiano. He bounced around in the NFL as a secondaries coach and then returned to Ohio State after coaching in the NFL, returned as a defensive coordinator for Ryan Day, who's a former offensive coordinator at Boston College, and talked about the affinity that Coach Day has for Boston College. And it felt like this was exactly what he wanted for his first head coaching job. He got emotional too. He was very open about that he carries a chip on his shoulder as a head coach. He carried because he's had doubters. He doesn't have the playing background or the initial coaching background that people have had to take chances on him. And he's taking a chance by coming here. Boston College was taking a chance on offering him the position and him accepting it. And everyone's expecting and hoping that'll work out. But if you don't listen to him or able to talk to him, the way he looked at you, the way he talked to you in the press conference, it was a completely different feel than anything I've personally experienced, not having been at any other coaching unveiling, but just talking to new coaches across different sports. It was something to behold. And if you were there, if you were able to catch it on ACC Network, it actually felt very different, very special. And I don't know that I was the only one in that room sitting, and I was sitting in the media row who was ready to run through the podium for him and wish it was September already.
So the Dabo Sweeneys, the Lincoln Rileys, the Ryan Days getting that level of job as a first-time head coach, that is a rare exception. This is still an exception to gain a head coaching job at this level for a top 40 program in the country right out of the gate. So there's no track record that he can point to get the job and say, oh, I went 58-30 at so-and-so. So he obviously is impressive. And then and is that important, what he delivered at the podium, what he's able to communicate and convey to people? Absolutely. He is the face of the program. Now he needs to back it up, and that will come in time in regards to the recruiting output, what we see from the evidence in spring practice and summer. And then, of course, nothing tells the tale like the W's and the L's once they start to hit the field. But for him to be able to sell himself to gain this kind of job right out of the gate as his first head coaching job speaks volumes.
Yeah, and at Boston College, it's always done a little bit differently. Service is a very big component of the school's mission, men and women for others, the Jesuit Catholic mission. The message that he was comes at a very unique time, too, with Boston College, given what happened last week. With the passing of Pete Frates, whose name has been all over the news. And obviously I'm still wearing my strikeout ALS hat while I'm on with you, given the reinforcement of what community service and service to each other means when you're coming out of Boston College. And it's been reinforced over the last week to a degree of what Pete was able to accomplish. And I mentioned that not only just to, obviously mention working a Pete Frates reference, but also the fact that he took this job at a time when that was very much in the news. So he has to understand the component. And he mentioned it today, men and women for others, the education component, the fact that at Boston College, with integrity and the things that we talk about up here, it's done very uniquely different. And I'm not saying other schools don't have integrity and other schools aren't in touch with community service or anything like that, but it's such an important part at BC that factors into things. And when he was talking about that, it felt like that resonated with him. And because that resonated with him in the school's mission and greater heights and everything that Martin Jarmond has also embraced, a former Ohio State employee who is now a Boston College athletic director, working with people, that's something that it does take the right coach to accept the position at Boston College. It's done differently up here. And I know I've said that a couple of times. So when he's taking the coaching position as a first-time head coach, the fact that he's able to talk about those facts, to talk about it as a younger head coach who has the energy and has the lack of background almost, he can use it to formulate his own ability to coach. So 4 or 5 years down the road, hopefully he wants to stay here. That resonates with him enough that the success is there, that he wants to be here for a very long time and experienced a whole bunch of success, and that this turns into something that is fruitful to the greater mission of Boston College as a whole. And I think that as he spoke today, that was a part of it. And I'd be lying if I said again, it wasn't something I expected, but it was something that the more he talked about it, the intensity with which he talked about it really struck me and inspired me sitting in the seats listening to him.
Christmas is coming, folks. Grab the link in the description section below. Shop Amazon. It's the same shopping experience, but you help us build the channel. We got Dan Rubin on the line to talk Boston College football, and of course, a big day there in Chestnut Hill with the introduction of Jeff Hafley as the new head coach coming in from Ohio State. Steve Addazio now at Colorado State. So, Dan, did Hafley talk about the logistics of how he's going to spend his time, who's coaching the bowl game, how that transition is going to work?
So he apologized to his wife at the press conference because I don't think he's going to be sleeping much and or spending much time with his family, which was funny. But he talked about the fact that he was going through his stuff with BC. He met with the team before he met with the media and an overflowed media room too. By the way, it was standing room only in there with a whole bunch of people. But he opted to say, look, I'm getting back on a plane. I'm going back to Columbus. I'm going right to practice. And he said, I might still be in my suit when I go off into practice. He is in full game plan mode for Clemson in the college football playoff. He actually joked and said, well, now I'm looking at Clemson and, hey, is this guy coming back? Is this guy coming back? I'm going to see them next year. But he he's ready to go for the Buckeyes. I have a feeling that it's kind of ironic that they're playing Clemson, because I don't know if Boston College fans are rooting for the ACC at this point, because they're rooting for Coach Hafley. So if he's going back, he's going to work with them, hopefully for him, through mid-January, and then come join the Eagles after the bowl game. In turn, receivers coach Rich Cannell is the interim head coach. He was named interim at the press conference when they announced the change in leadership at the football program. He's been running practices. He's been running the show, and he's going to coach. He's going to be the head coach straight up through the Birmingham Bowl on January 2nd. And then the future for all the coaches or current coaches are unknown. But after January 2nd and after Ohio State's all complete, Coach Hafley will be the head coach following the conclusion of the Ohio State season.